Hey friends, welcome to the second part of our lesson on the solo arrangement of I'm Forever Blowing Bubbles. This is probably the part of the tune that you're more familiar with. This is the chorus of the song that is very commonly played. So we're starting out on a fairly basic harmonic progression that you're probably used to with mostly open position chords, which is a great thing. We don't have too much left hand work, so we get to have some more fun with the right hand. To dive in, we're starting on a C major chord, but for this first bar, you don't actually have to voice anything quite yet because we're not playing anything on the A string, so we can just utilize these open notes here. Now this is still in campanella style, but what we're doing is adding just a little bass accompaniment in with this. The actual melody is this. By adding two little notes in here, we're adding that bass accompaniment, which gives us all of the downbeats in the measure, which is important just to drive the song around a little bit more, but it's also giving us contrary motion to the melody, or the bass line is going down against the melody that's going up, which is a lot of fun. Now these first two measures are still in campanella style, much as we did in the verse. We're going to start out open G string, open C, open A, open G, and then on the last eighth note of this, we're going to have to play an F sharp with our second finger on the second fret of our E string. Very slowly, here's our first measure. So we have some great dissonance going on at the end of this. And then we're resolving this to a G7th chord, or our 5 chord in the key of C. Now we're going to voice this much as you usually would, but we will not put down the ring finger here because we're going to play an open A over this. So we'll go E string, C string, A string. So here are our first 2 bars, nice and slowly, and this does repeat throughout this little melodic motif. So once we get these first 2 bars, we got a little bit going on. Our first 2 bars, and then we're resolving to a good old C major chord, just our open position one we know. On beat 1, we're going to hit an open G string and then strum through. Just like that. I like to use my thumb for this. As we talked about in the first lesson, the goal of this arrangement is really imparting dynamics into our playing. So we want to be wary of how soft and loud we're playing throughout this piece. You'll see as we get to the B section of this that we're going to bring that dynamic window up, and it's really going to be more effective if you play this first part quiet. The loudest louds are only as loud as they can be relative to the softest soft that you can play. So we need to focus on being able to play our entire dynamic window loud and soft and see how big we can get that, because that's really what is going to allow us to impart emotion to this song, or really any song whatsoever. So we're going to strum a C, we're going to play G on beat 1 and then strum C. And then you'll note that I put the strumming pattern over top of this. Logically, over this C7th chord in bar 28, we could just play 3 downstrokes. That would work. It's fine. But check this out. We get just a little bit of textural variance by doing a down, up, down. Now this is derivative of what we were doing in the quarter note 8/8 quarter lick in the beginning, like that. So what we'll do on beat 1 is thumb down, up with the first finger, down with the first finger. So we have 3 totally separate sounds coming out of the uke, 1 for each beat. And we're getting just a little bit louder kind of each time. Just slight differences, but those slight differences are really what matters. So here are our first 4 bars of the A section of the tune. And then we're moving on to our F6th chord. You'll note that this is exactly the same as our D minor 7th that we played in the verse, but is functioning as a 4 chord this time as opposed to a 2 chord. So we're going to go up to this bar, and we're going to do this bar all finger style. We're not going to strum those middle notes as I usually would. This is a squirrely little bar that can be kind of tough, and I'll be honest that this is probably, to me, the toughest part of this entire tune. It is deceptively simple, but to get it really to go well, we need to be wary of the dynamics again. So in bar 29, this little accompaniment part, when we have 5 and 5 together on beat 2, this is just an accompaniment. So we want this to be really light and know where our melody is. And if you swap on over to your lead sheet with the chords on it, which just has the melody and the lead sheet, you'll be able to see better what is accompaniment and what is melody. And we always want to accentuate the melody. So while we're doing a fairly simple pattern of this, and then we're going to put down on the last eighth note there, same as we did over the D minor seventh in the verse, we're going to use our ring finger on the 7th fret of our E string just to grab that beat. So again, on beat 2 of the next measure of bar 30, that 5th fret, or that F right there, again, is an accompaniment note. So in these 2 bars, on beat 2 of each of them, we want to be very sensitive with the second beat of this and not let it really overshadow the melody notes. So here are those first 2 bars of the second line of the verse, of the chorus, I'm sorry. And we're resolving to a C major chord with our usual waltz strumming pattern. And we're swapping the 2 that we have now learned. So we're going to go thumb, thumb, up, down, thumb, up, down. So we're throwing these 2 strumming patterns together now, just over a C and C7th chord. And now is where the fun starts. In bar 33, we're finally getting to a chord melody, strumming style that we always love and is one of my favorite ways to play. So we're going to put down just our root position, F major chord. And again, same strumming pattern that we just did. So all we're going to do on beat 2 on our up strum, we're going to put down our pinky or ring finger on the 3rd fret of our A string on the C. But what's important about this, this is the one bar where you really do need this strumming pattern with an upstroke, because that upstroke is going to make us hit this C on the 3rd fret first before any of the other notes. So it's really going to pop out if we use an up strum versus a down strum. I know some of these things seem silly, but when we're arranging tunes and playing songs, it's important to do the best that we can to really get the melody to pop out of the tune. So we're going to do just, and then much as we had in the beginning, this is our strumming pattern that we know, down, down, up, down, but we're going to voice the C major chord, but we're going to use a dead note on this C here so that we can just strum through it without having to worry about partial strums and only strumming one of the notes. And then we have a slightly different rhythmic device here in bar 35. We're doing our F major chord, but our melody necessitates that we use a B natural on the 2nd fret of our A string on that 2nd 8th note. So we're going to have to go down, up, down, up. The first 2 are quick, the second 2 are slow, and we can start now just using really our first finger to strum. This is where we're starting to bring up the volume, and by using the nail of our first finger, we're going to intrinsically just automatically bring up that volume without having to really beat up our uke and get it bigger. And that leaves that dynamic window bigger for us to open in a couple more bars. And that's important. So this next bar, bar 35, will sound like this. We're just going to play an open F major. Then on the up stroke, we're going to put our ring finger on the 2nd fret of our A string on a B natural, like that. And then as we come down, your pinky is going to come and grab the 3rd fret, the C on our A string, or you can just move the 3rd finger up. You can slide it. That works as well for a downstroke. And then we'll just pick that up. So our melodies, that's our melody. So when we strum it, it will look like this. We can do a down or an up strum really at the end of this bar. Either will work. The up strum's what's notated, but this one's not too big of a deal. And then we have our usual C major chord that we do just like that. And then onto our Hawaiian D7th chord. But for the first bar here, we are going to mute the A string. So you can see that I'm just laying my ring. I'm playing my Hawaiian D7th, 2 open, 2 open, but I'm just resting my ring finger on the A string here just for the first beat. And now these next few bars will be all down strums, and this is where we're opening up the dynamic window. As we walk up to the B section of this tune, this is where it gets loud. This is where we get up to that high E, which is the highest note in the piece, and we want it to punch out like nobody's business. So over these next 4 bars, we are going to crescendo immensely. So we're going to do down strums, and the movement here is fairly easy. We're just going open, muted, open, 2, 3, 3, open, all over a D7th chord, and then we're just going G7th, add the C in with our pinky, and then that inversion that we used previously, open 5, 3, 5. And this last measure here is our typical waltz strumming pattern. But we want to start out maybe a mezzo piano or so. So kind of quiet, but not soft as we were doing the rest of the tune. And we're going to build it up to a forte, which is rather loud. So these last 4 bars of the A section will sound like this. And then as we get up, this is our forte when we get to the C major chord. If you did the Bye Bye Blues lesson, you'll notice this is the same voicing, just a pinky on the 7th fret of our A string, everything else open. So we have that 3rd on top, and we're really going to hit that chord nice and hard, but we need to be sure not to hit it too hard. We've talked about this before on uke, that there are limits to how loud we can make this instrument. At some point, it just starts sounding really bad. So when we're talking about these dynamics, it's good to just take your uke, take any old chord, it doesn't matter, and play it as quiet as possible and bring it up. That's about as loud as I can get. If I go louder than that, it'll sound like this. It gets kind of distorted and crunchy and out of tune, and we don't want that. So you need to find out where that window ends on your uke so that you don't beat it up too much. And on beat 1 here, I'm just using my good old claw stroke, so we'll just open up all of our fingers, just drag the fingernails across to really just punch that first note. All downstrokes here because we want this to be really loud. This is like our shout chorus where everyone's going, oh, you finally got here. And we have arrived at this high E, and that's so important. So nice, strong downstrokes, simple melodic line, 7, 7, 6, 7, 7, 3 is our only movement. That's our C major chord, and then we're going to go to an E7th part. This can be a tough little jump. Sometimes we're going to use our bar chord E7th first on beat 1, 4, 4, 4, 5, and then go down to our root position, E7th directly after that on beat 2, because our melody jumps down from this D to this B. If you don't like this jump, you can alternatively voice our regular old E7th chord and reach up on the first beat with your pinky on the 5th fret. That'll also work. I prefer. It gives just this nice leap to it and really accentuates the melody. I like to have that, but the other way works just fine. And then we're strumming through on the next bar. We're going to make it an E7 sharp 5, so we're adding in our C on here, or B sharp, really, if we want to talk about it correctly, with our standard waltz strumming pattern. But instead of doing our thumb like we were doing previously, we're going to strum this as if we see it where it's usually written, so down, down, up, down, because we want to keep that power going. And if we use our thumb strum, it's really going to take away from that. And we want to make sure that we are just keeping the momentum going until we get to the end of this. Because these 8 bars right here, this is the pinnacle of it. From here, we're moving on to an A minor chord, which we're going to use 2, open, open, 3, because our melody is here. On beat 3, we'll put down our pinky on the 5th fret. And then we're going to our root position, F7th. I know a lot of people don't like this. You could play an F major chord. You could. But this half-step movement that it gives us in the bass, we're going from an E to an E flat because we have an E flat in our F7th chord. And that is going to give us, again, our contrary motion bass movement to return us back to the E. Because what we're really walking down over these 2 bars is E, or the 5th of our A minor, E flat, the 7th, and then we're going down to the 7th of our E7th chord, a D, and then we're staying there as we get to our G7th. And this gives a great motion against the melody that is happening here. So these 2 bars are fairly simple. Just lift up the pinky and then back to E7th. And then this is where we're going to get, this is our loudest part of the tune. In bar 48, we're going to crescendo from this forte to like a double forte or fortissimo, and we're going to go up our inversion. So we're going to go root position G7th, then slide up to that one we've been using on the 5th fret, and then we're just going to, on the last beat, put our pinky on the 7th fret, so we have that E on top. But we're going to get loud through this, and we'll see why in 1 second. So here are these 4 bars starting from the A minor. very loud. That's as loud as my uke gets right there. And then bar 49, we're dropping right back down. This is our initial melodic motif that we have. I'm forever blowing bubble. We're coming back to just that sweet campanella style after we built up to this big pinnacle, and then just right back down, nice and quiet to end this tune. So these next 4 bars are identical almost to what we've done. We have to change just the 4th beat of bar 32 here. You'll see that we're on a C major chord, and then we have this pickup, 2, 3, and then we're going up to a D9 chord, which is our D7th bar chord, 5, 6, 5, 5. But we're going to use our ring finger on the 7th fret of our A string to grab that E, or the 9th of the chord, just on beat 1. And this is where we're going to build back up. So we come back down to this sweet volume for the C, G7th, C, and then as we walk up, we're going to get back loud again. So up to the D9 chord, it's going to sound like this. And we'll end on a very loud C major chord after we just walk up this G7th chord and walk down, open G, open E, C, which ends us in our campanella style with everything ringing out together. So with this arrangement, it's really about nuance and dynamics. The chord voicings are fairly easy if you're comfortable with basic bar chords, but we want to focus on the musicality now of this piece as opposed to just focusing on the notes written on the page. Again, if you need any help with this, any questions, please shoot me a message, shoot me an email. I'm always happy to help you out, and I'm looking forward to hearing you all play in this piece.